record this now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to MLK Day of Service 2022. I know some people are still having some technical issues, so we'll keep sending them Zoom links and try to figure that out. If you have a friend, try to resend them the link that worked for you, or text or email Miss Zachariah, and we can resend the link to them as well, so we can try to get everyone on here. But for time's sake, and because I want to respect our speaker's time since he is calling in from another country, I want to make sure we get started here. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. It is our 4th annual MLK Day of Service in partnership with Equity and Inclusion Office, as well as BLFN Network, and others on campus who have helped us. We've actually been doing a day of service for over a decade now. We started it my first year as Director of Community Service, and I'm excited that it's continued on. As a former AmeriCorps member, in AmeriCorps, it's our job to make it a day on and not off. And so it's really exciting to see so many people engaged, even despite the challenges we have not being able to gather together. Again, I'm kind of glad we made that decision because of the weather today, but I'm really glad that you can all join us. I'm going to hand it over to Isadora for our land acknowledgement and go silent for a little while, and we'll take the program from there. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'll come back on and give us a heads up of what the full schedule is. Once we actually, let me do that now. Sorry. Let me go ahead and give you, oops. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and give you that schedule just in case. So again, we have our opening session, and then we'll end up with our keynote speaker in just a moment. We'll then take a 15-minute bio break. That's to give some time for people just to get up, stretch your legs, walk around, get your supplies for the community service the service projects if you need it. We do have one group of families who are actually going to the Interfaith Food Pantry of the Oranges. So we also want to make sure they have some time to get there safely for their service opportunity. And then we will come back on. It says 10:30 to 12:30. It might not take that long to make the sandwiches or the projects. We're going to have some presentations from students telling us about it and some discussion questions as we make them. And then we will disperse right from there. Whatever you do, kids, when you're reporting hours, if you want to put in from 8:30 to 12:30, that's fine. And when we hope you continue on talking to your families and other people, and looking at other program that's available today to kind of think about this day. So I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand it over to Isadora.
Good morning, everyone. So I'd like to begin by having us acknowledge the original stewards of the land of Newark Academy and most of our homes, the Lenni Lenape, who originally inhabited New Jersey, Delaware, and surrounding areas. I would like to acknowledge their ancestors who took care of the land that we are on today before their forced removal. Those of you who are on different land, I urge that you do the research and discover the original stewards of that land. I ask you all to join me in supporting and uplifting the voices of Indigenous people in years that we are not focusing on environmental justice. I will now be passing it on to Neil, who will be introducing our keynote speaker. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, as Isadora said, I'm just going to do a quick introduction of our keynote speaker, Tobias Fox. So Tobias Fox is a sculptor, chiseling his community to create a masterpiece of change, community, and sustainability. Mr. Fox, the founder and managing director of Newark Science and Sustainability, is tapping into the lives of thousands. Through Newark Science and Sustainability, Mr. Fox is combating child obesity and food deserts with a focus on sustainability and creating community. Recently expanding into Uganda and the Dominican Republic, Mr. Fox has been working with residents to address issues relating to the environment, health, and the economy. His expertise in building movements has allowed him to bring together large groups of people for various programs related to environmental, ecological, and wellness issues. The numerous urban farming and community gardens that have emerged out of these movements stand as a testament to Mr. Fox's impact on his community. Projects like the Garden of Hope encourage healthy eating and epitomize sustainability in their design. As the annual coordinator of the Sustainable Living Empowerment Conference, Mr. Fox has been able to unite the community while being a protector of the earth. A true champion of intersectionality, Mr. Fox is fighting multiple issues at once. His impact on the community has not gone unnoticed. Mr. Fox has earned numerous accolades, including the 2016 Community Service Award by Northeast Earth Coalition, He was named a Newark NAACP Environmental Honoree and has presented in TEDx Broad Street, just to name a few. These awards encapsulate a small portion of the difference Mr. Fox has made. Mr. Fox has made lasting change and built a community, something an award will never be able to fully capture. Tools of dedication, community, and service in hand, Mr. Fox is shaping the world in the eyes of an artist, creating something we can admire for years to come, making a true difference. Mr. Fox, thank you, and we are also happy to have you here today.
Wow, thank you. I should add that I'm also a prophet. I get paid by the word, so I'm going to drag this out. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Thank you for the kind words. Greatly appreciate that. Apologize for my silhouette. I'm in a hotel. I'm usually in a mountainous town called Constanza. It's an small agricultural town. But I wanted to make sure I didn't have any interruptions with the electricity. There are power outages that just happen randomly. Can't call PSNG. And I also wanted to make sure that I had some high-speed internet service. So I decided to come to Santiago, which is considered the second capital of the country. It's a very well-developed city, and also stay in a hotel where there's a greater chance of having internet service so I can share this experience with you all. I'm going to share my screen. My presentation is highly visual. I'm going to remove my camera because I would like for you to kind of absorb the images as I speak over them or narrate over the images. And so let me share screen. And I just want to ask the question, is my screen being it's visible? Can everyone see my screen?
It's not visible.
Okay. Let's go back to share screen. Okay, got it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's just jump right into it. As I stated before, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be here and to hear the words that were shared prior to me speaking. Very moving for me as well. And so I want to thank Newark Academy for this opportunity. This presentation will describe the work I do through Newark Science and Sustainability, Inc., the Newark Community Food System, and Action Local. So, think globally and act locally. Urges people to consider the health of the entire planet and to take action in their own communities and cities. Long before governments began enforcing environmental laws, individuals were coming together to protect habitats and the organisms that live within them. In the United States, the Environmental Protection Agency estimates that more food reaches landfills and incinerators than any other single material in our everyday trash. By keeping wholesome and nutritious food in our communities and out of our landfills, we can help address the 42 million Americans that live in food insecure households. This would also have a tremendous impact on our climate. Roughly 44.2% of New Jersey's urban children, that's ages 3 to 18, are overweight or obese. Causes include poor nutrition education coupled with food deserts. These are areas that lack access to healthy food, a predominant issue in minority and low-income urban neighborhoods. Urban agriculture lays the foundation of my work through Newark Science and Sustainability, Inc., or Newark SAS. Since 2012, with little to no financial resources, we've managed to make an impact in our community by implementing various initiatives to increase awareness of environmental, ecological, and wellness issues through educational programs and hands-on activities, such as creating community gardens and urban farms. This involves healthy food access, ecological construction, advocating for strong policy that protects the long-term sustainability of our green spaces, and the creation of a green economy. We achieve this through working in collaboration and partnerships with residents, community-based organizations, and other key stakeholders, including local businesses. The most valuable resource, I believe, on this planet is the human mind. It was someone's ingenious thinking to collaborate and collaboration, I should say, with others that allows us to use cell phones, the internet, drive cars, fly in airplanes, turn on a light switch, you name it. Collaboration, in fact, is the growth of stuff. It is an organic practice for humans and also occurs in nature. In agriculture, we often use a technique called companion planting. This is the close planting of different plants that enhance each other's growth or protect each other from pests. For instance, green beans are a great choice to grow with corn because corn provides much needed nitrogen in the soil. In turn, the beans, which is a vine plant, can use the corn stalks as a support system instead of requiring a trellis. With companion planting, the farmer can combine the characteristics and elements of these plants to aid in better growth. Within this ecosystem or community of interacting organisms, there are no silos or hiding of or hoarding of resources and information. Because as farmers, we learn that by working in collaboration, we create new ideas and creative ways of solving shared problems. By working in collaboration and sharing knowledge, we're able to create methods and technologies that allows us to extend the growing season and produce a bountiful harvest. Core values are also known as guiding principles because they form a solid core of who we are, what we believe, and who we want to be going forward. Values form the foundation when establishing a healthy environment and relationship. So these are the guiding principles of my organization, and I use these values to help guide me through the process of creating community green spaces. The one that stands out most for me is to always be concerned with the health and integrity of your family, community, and environment. It's important that we demonstrate the harmonious relationship between people, nature, and community. Okay, so how many of us ended the year 2019? How many of us, think about it, ended the year of 2019 with major plans for 2020? I know I did. Well, as the saying goes, if you ever want to hear God laugh, tell God your plans. How many of us really remember Hurricane Sandy? Well, this is actually an image in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy in 2012. Hurricane Sandy and so many other climate-related disasters, and especially now, the coronavirus, has forced us to change the way we look at things and function as a society. It's unfortunate that it usually takes something this drastic for us to consider change. We are highly radical and proactive when it comes to getting the latest cell phone or buying a new car. But when it comes to our social system, we are very stagnant. As farmers, we are constantly looking out for new threats to our crops and experimenting with new methods and technologies to increase our yields and extend our growing season. We are constantly adapting to change. Many times, unexpected threats to our ecosystem allows us to recognize our weaknesses and help us become more resilient. I remember going to the supermarket in Newark the morning after Hurricane Sandy. There were power outages, so a generator was used in the supermarket to provide some lighting so we could shop. The cashiers were computing our groceries with a calculator, and if you didn't have cash, you couldn't purchase any groceries. Plain and simple, you could not eat. Later that same day, I went to the garden to assess any damage. And to my surprise, the garden had a tremendous growth spurt because the storm released much needed nutrients for plants to thrive, such as rainwater. Also, lightning releases nitrogen in the atmosphere. The question is, how can we as humans that are guided by a monetary system live harmoniously with nature? As self-help and spiritual author and motivational speaker, the late Wayne Walter Dyer stated, when you change the way you look at things, the things we look at change. This was a vacant lot in the city of Newark that we adopted in 2015. I, along with nearly 50 others, operate within Newark's Adopt a Lot program, where residents are invited to transform unused city-owned lots into gardens by leasing out the site for $1. Jersey City also has an Adopt a Lot program. Trenton may have something similar. I was in search for a lot, and my colleague, Jacqueline Beto, sent me here to this site. This isn't the only vacant lot in this particular neighborhood. This area is also littered with crime, poverty, and neglect. As I stood in this space, making my observation on how to transform this environment into a garden, my initial thoughts were to just leave. But as I was standing there and preparing to act out on my thoughts, I noticed a group of children walking out of the building adjacent to this space. It turns out that this facility that you see is a childhood learning center. And at the time, they didn't have a playground. The instructors would line up the children and then walk them around the block as a means to give them some outdoor activity. And that's when I said to myself, we can do better than this. So I began to see this space from a different lens. Just like without the proper nurturing, we limit a plant's growth. Well, without the proper environment, we limit a child's growth. We limit our own growth. In order to get the most out of anything, we have to put the best of us into its creation. And so we transform this space into the garden of hope. It's our belief that gardens in and of themselves are the real life symbols of hope. Our gardens invigorate people's senses during the day-to-day hustle and bustle. We've been able to transform abandonment to sustainability. The gardens become a gathering place where strangers become friends and to ponder their thoughts amongst the beauty of the garden. We have brought about a true sense of community through the natural unifier of food. And through our farm to table co-op, we ensure that the food we grow reaches the tables of people in the community. Now, seeing what we could accomplish with the Garden of Hope, we decided to take it a step further by implementing all the aspects of organizational gardening to creating the City of Newark's first year-round sustainable urban farm with a hydroponic greenhouse that'll collect rainwater for year-round food production, an outdoor commercial kitchen to support our nutrition and culinary initiatives. We'll also have a walk-in cooler where we can store the produce we harvest, a weekly farm stand, a few chickens, solar technology to help offset some of our energy expenses, and an enclosed facility with a restroom where we can not only host meetings, but also display and sell some of our value-added products. We've transformed a vacant lot into a community garden that will soon become an agricultural hub to support the 30 local growers within our network and ecopreneurs by developing new products for various markets. We started this journey in 2015, and it hasn't been easy, but we created a plan with actionable steps and moved with purpose. As founder and lead facilitator of the Newark Community Food System, I work in collaboration with a network of about 30 Newark-based growers. The Newark Community Food System, or NCFS, is an innovative collective of local urban agriculture experts who supports the growth of the local food system, amplify community-led initiatives, and develop sustainability around urban agriculture and fresh, healthy food access. NCFS takes actionable steps to empower residents to become actively involved in reshaping their food system while gaining control of their health and environment. Throughout the year, we conduct 3 signature events, one in the spring, summer, and fall. These events you see were held last year. Each event focused on sustainable living practices and the impact of urban agriculture. These events are also intended to engage the community and address community needs. They also highlight organizations throughout the local community, as well as build the capacity of the neighborhoods throughout the city to promote local action and involvement. There's our citywide garden tour, a community meal that we have where we designate a particular neighborhood, we bring people out from that community. They engage with one another, using food as a unifier, but also engaging people with dialogue. After acquiring 3 vacant lots from the city of Newark, I decided to create a land tenure and policy working group and managed to persuade others within our network to transition themselves from leaseholder to landowner as a means to secure the long-term sustainability of our green spaces. In the spring of 2021, we collectively submitted several development proposals to the city of Newark with the hope that they will allow more of us to purchase and redevelop the lots we're currently using. These proposals speak directly to healthy food access, climate change, affordable energy efficient housing, and environmental justice. We are working very hard to demonstrate how agriculture can be a catalyst for community development. I traveled to the Dominican Republic in December of 2018 for a 2-week vacation. But instead of spending 2 weeks on a beach, which I would not have mind doing, I ended up spending most of my time in an agricultural mountainous town and lived among the locals. It was my first time ever living outside of the United States, and this piqued my interest in the development of a farmers education exchange program that would also become a chapter organization. Action Local is a nonprofit organization we established that serves as our global outreach. Its mission is to empower communities with environmental and nutrition education, facilitate the cultivation of organic agriculture, and create pathways of sustainable lifestyles and green jobs. As of 2019, there were approximately 2 million people of Dominican descent in the United States, including both native and foreign born. Dominican Americans are the 5th largest Hispanic or Latino American group in the United States, after Mexican Americans, stateside Puerto Ricans, Cuban Americans, and Salvadoran Americans. New Jersey has the 2nd largest population of people of Dominican descent. According to the 2019 CIA World Factbook and other sources, the Dominican Republic has the largest economy in the Caribbean. It has been one of the fastest growing economies in Latin America, fueled by mining, tourism, and agriculture. The economy is highly dependent upon the United States, the destination for approximately half of exports and the source of 40% imports. However, due to income inequality, high unemployment, and underemployment remains important long-term challenges. The average household makes about $300 a month. According to the Encyclopedia of the Nation, the Dominican Republic has environmental problems in the areas of deforestation, water supply, and soil erosion. And as the eroding soil enters the sea, it damages the nation's coral reefs as well. Many farmers continue to cut trees illegally to make more land available for cultivation. Soil erosion results from a combination of rainfall and the use of land in mountainous areas. The country has 21 cubic kilometers of renewable water resources, with 89% used for farming. About 97% of the population has access to pure drinking water. Water pollution results from the effects of mining, along with industrial and agricultural. As I was conducting my research in the Dominican Republic in 2019, I surprisingly realized that despite how small this country is in comparison to the United States, and how the US is far more economically and technologically advanced than the Dominican Republic, when it came to the environmental and health disparities, there are a lot of similarities between the two countries. And that's when I decided it just made sense to do some outreach in the Dominican Republic. And so in 2020, during the peak of COVID-19, with the support of local residents in Constanza, we decided to launch our agriculture and farmer education program. Its mission is to empower communities with environmental and nutrition education, facilitate cultivation of organic agriculture, and create pathways of sustainable lifestyles and green jobs. This program also encourages a cultural exchange that allows agriculturalists to share best agricultural practices and the opportunity to develop products to be sold throughout various markets. Since July 2020, we helped with the organizing of a number of community events and workshops, including the distribution of clothing and toys. In these photos, we are facilitating an herbalism workshop. Here are community events led by local professionals from Constanza and Newark. The woman to your right, Elise Hernandez, she is from Santiago, Dominican Republic, but she has been a resident of New Jersey for the past 20 years. And so she was really excited to be able to give something back to her home country. And here are we are having a series of community meetings that will lead up to a wellness and fitness community event led by local fitness trainers from Santo Domingo, the country's capital. And this is our Art Grows in Constanza initiative led by local artists. I must add that whenever there are activities for children, they become more of a major event because there are very little extracurricular activities for the children. So they come out in large numbers, especially when the activity is free. We've received a good amount of toy and clothing donations from a few families in New Jersey that we were able to distribute to children in some of the most neediest communities. And these are our three most recent community events. We just wrapped up actually yesterday. And I'll be returning to New Jersey on Thursday. So I'll be greeted by the winter. I'm very excited to announce that beginning in March, we'll be expanding our global outreach into Africa through the Mandela Fellowship for Young African Leaders, a US government initiative. We'll be working virtually with African professionals to address the barriers that prevent youth from achieving sustainable living in an agricultural town in Uganda through ecopreneurship, community agriculture, and environmental education. For me, this initiative and opportunity will be done virtually. I'll be serving as a mentor, a US collaborator in facilitating some of the training. But despite all the challenges we are faced with due to COVID, despite our limited resources and operating on an annual budget well under $100,000 a year, we still managed to demonstrate how even the smallest grassroots organization can make a significant impact. It starts by creating a healthy environment where you can plant your first seed and give hope when others could only see despair. And begin cultivating the minds of those whom you are engaged with. With that, I'd like to leave you with a few thoughtful quotes. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Stated that life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? As Mr. Bucky Fuller, who was an American architect, systems theorist, author, designer, and inventor, stated, in order to change an existing paradigm, you do not struggle and try to change the problematic model. You create a new model and make the old one obsolete. That, in essence, is the higher service to which we are all being called. And as Jacques Fresco, who was an American social engineer and founder of the Venus Project, stated that if you think we can't change the world, it just means you're not one of those that will. And I say, think global, act local, and that's global. Thank you for your time and this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fox. It was awesome to hear. You would hear a round of applause from all 157 plus of us if we were in person. We do have some time for question and answer. What we're going to ask you to do is to raise your hand, which we've already seen one or two people do. Raise your hand, and then Ms. Duzak will call on you just so we can hear some extra voices and feel a little bit more like community when we're together. I do want to say, Mr. Fox is. We've been working with him, Ms. Duzak and I have been working with him for a while, and he has put us in touch with the West Side Farm. So all of the 8th graders out there have already been there. All the 7th graders will be there, and upper schoolers, you'll also get a chance to visit that high school urban farm during our day of service. And our hope is to get out to some of the other locations that Newark Science and Sustainability works with for our Earth Month and our Day of Action this spring. So we're super excited to continue this partnership. If you have a question, just go ahead and raise your hand. I know that Ms. Galvin already has suggested that maybe we should be partnering as well to do an immersion down to Dominican Republic. So we will be in touch about that as well. I'm sure our students would love that. So anyone who have questions, don't be shy. I know NA kids have questions.
Here we go. Okay. Jaden, you are up. You should be allowed to speak now.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Thank you so much. I had a question about what type of voluntary work do we do here in Newark?
Well, I mean, there's a wide range of volunteering work. And so when I engage with volunteers, I let them know that volunteering doesn't just mean doing some physical activity, especially if you're interacting with, grassroots organizations that have limited resources. They may need assistance with social media, the website, videos, editing. So there's a wide range of ways you can volunteer. And so I try to get people to think not only about, how can I come to a vacant lot and spread wood chips or plant something. And that's cool, that's needed. But there's so many different ways to get involved and become actively engaged and make a meaningful impact in one's community, but also an organization that is also serving the community and need that extra support. And so, again, I'm connected with about 30 local growers throughout the city of Newark. We use community agriculture as our foundation to develop programming and also help residents have access to more fresh, locally grown produce. We also speak to issues related to climate change. And so there are many different ways and opportunities for a person to volunteer and become actively engaged and involved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaden, for the question. Thank you, Tobias. We're wondering if you're comfortable turning your camera on now that the presentation is over.
I'm very comfortable. But
All right.
you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. And I don't know, trying to turn the camera on and I can't do it.
All right, Ms. Fisher will work on that, and I will read you the next question. I think it should be good to go now. It somehow.
Yeah,
You were
it
a
should be
co-host.
fixed now. There you
Yeah.
go. Sorry, apparently I took you away from being a co-host. I don't know. Zoom has a mind of its own today.
So we have
So I'm
a
going to repeat that question. I'm going to repeat the question and answer now.
So
okay.
we have a question in the chat. I don't know if everyone can see this, but I'll read it out loud just in case. What part of Africa are they looking to launch the next phase of the outreach?
Yeah, this is Uganda. It's a small agricultural mountainous town. So I got involved in this initially over the past summer, 2021. Rutgers Business School. I've done some work with them in the past, and they are a part of this Mandela program. And someone from the Rutgers Business School reached out to me, asked if I would be a mentor for a couple of African leaders that they're working with. And I said, sure, no problem. And one of the two young ladies that I was a mentor of over the past summer reached out to me in the fall and said, Tobias, I'm trying to apply for a grant, but I have to have a U.S. partner. This is a program I'm trying to create here in Uganda. Would you be willing to collaborate with my organization here in Africa so we can apply for the grant? And I helped them receive a $3,000 grant and being a part of this awesome initiative. So this is Uganda, but it's in the small agricultural town of Uganda. And currently agriculture is kind of like this menial, low class activity. And so they're trying to shift people's mindset from that. And looking at how we approach agriculture, they believe it could definitely help with their initiatives in Uganda. Hope that answered the question. I purposely try to be long-winded since I'm a prophet and get paid by the word.
Nina, I saw you had your hand up. I'm gonna, I unmuted. Well, you should be able to unmute yourself now if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, what other organizations do you partner with in the Dominican Republic?
That's a really good question. So that's a really good question. Mostly I partner with residents. I've been fortunate because I'm a real American. I only speak one language. And thankfully, I embrace technology, and so I have an app that allows me to communicate with people in the Dominican Republic, because about less than 1% of the population speaks English. And then also, thankfully, a few of my colleagues are 100% bilingual. Two of them are from the Dominican Republic. And so this really helps me with communicating and navigating through a predominantly Spanish-speaking country. And having a large network of folks, they've been able to put me in touch with people who once lived in the US, or especially New Jersey, that are now living in the Dominican Republic, are business owners. And so it enables me to meet these people here where they are, partner with them, collaborate with them. They love what I'm doing in their country. And so a lot of the people I do collaborate with are private business owners. They own restaurants, own fitness centers, and so forth. And so I haven't really, and a couple of these people also have their own community foundation or organization that works with the community. So I'm just a collaborator, and I try to partner with whomever is willing to work with me. So that's my broad answer to your question.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much.
All right, so we have some questions coming in the Q&A, and we would really love to hear your voices. So if you're comfortable, use the raise hand function, and I'll enable your ability to talk. So first one is, what do you find are the most sustainable ways or the most effective ways to maintain gardens in the places you plant them?
Well, again, that's a really good question, because it also, again, my approach is community agriculture. And what that means is that it's not a corporate model, right? So it's how do we work with the community and the community as a whole, not just like, residents, but also organizations that exist, local businesses, and so forth. And the goal is healthy food access, environmental and nutrition education. And so it becomes, and that's why I keep using the word community in agriculture. And so community engagement is tough. Everywhere I've traveled, all over the United States, here in the DR, in the Philippines, it is extremely tough, because you are expecting people to give up their time for free, to believe in something that you are passionate about. And so, I've had people who have this narrow lens, right? Because they come from a very affluent lifestyle. They have, a lot of access to things that they need to thrive. And they come into a low-income community, and they cannot understand why the people aren't running to a garden that has been created to provide more healthy food access. But that's the assumption, that you think that no one in this particular low-income neighborhood work, and everyone shares your same interests and passion. And so there needs to be a massive re-education that goes on throughout the entire world. Because, I operate within the city of Newark, a low-income community, a community that has been identified as a food desert, but very few people engage in the garden. Very few people eat the food that is grown in the garden. They are so accustomed to eating fast food, and especially in high-income countries like the United States, where we put most of our trust in third parties to care for our food, supermarkets. But when you travel to a low-income country like the Dominican Republic, the Philippines, Thailand, and so forth, they still have this strong bond and relationship and dependency on the farmer. And so, but when you're asking people to give up their time, and you have no resources to pay them for their time, it becomes a huge challenge. I don't care where you are in the world. And so I use what I have available. So my education background consists of creative writing, filmmaking, book publishing. I'm also a photographer. So I use these mediums as a way to pull people into the work that I do. And I collaborate with others to demonstrate how the work that we do is highly important and beneficial to the lives of others.
Thank you. Okay, the questions are rolling in now. I'm gonna combine one from the Q&A and one from the chat because they're similar. So Kaya and Eva, please raise your hand if I left anything off here. But what do you envision for your organization in the next 10 years? What places or projects? No big deal, easy question.
A fifth booster shot.
I told you the NA kids would come through in just a moment. They just had to get warmed up.
And the part two of that is what places or projects would you like to expand in the future? And then specifically, were you thinking to reach other parts of Latin America or say majorly in the DR?
Right. 10 years. 2020 should have, if nothing else, taught us that we can't even predict what will happen in the next year, let alone 10 years. But my goal as I move forward in 2020, which will, speak to the future, is I am trying my best to acquire the resources that will allow me to hire a full-time staff. Can't keep doing all this by myself, right? And I need more reliable people to do it with. And so we are currently in the construction phases of transforming the Garden of Hope into this urban agricultural hub center. And so I'm going to definitely need support with managing that site, but also all of the programs and initiatives that come from that site. And then there's another 3 years down the road, there's another major redevelopment construction initiative that we'll be working on. I am going to visit Guatemala in February. So through the work that I do in the Dominican Republic, it's kind of opened some doorways for me to go into Guatemala and explore opportunities there. Prior to 2020, I thought that I would be doing some of this type of work in the Philippines or some part of Southeast Asia. And so I'm always looking and exploring where opportunities are for me to expand the work that I'm doing. But I would love to be able to, so my vision with the global outreach is to have teams of people in the US where we can go abroad and have this cultural exchange, share knowledge, and help each other obtain resources so we could address things like climate change and healthy food access and so forth, But I see the world through technology, thankfully has helped me see the world from a much broader lens, but also see the world as far more connected than I have ever thought. And then when I came to DR, I did not know that, hot water was a luxury. I thought if you didn't have hot water, it's because you didn't pay the water bill at some point in your life or something. But so when you come to countries like the Dominican Republic, the sun, creates your hot water. And if it's not hot, you boil it, And so these are things that, I'm hoping that I can get other like-minded professionals to come with me abroad to share some of these cultural experiences, but also acknowledge the similarities in our challenges, because I'm from the United States, which is, a high income country, but we have some serious health and environmental challenges and income disparities and so forth, So 10 years from now, who knows? Let's get through 2022. But yes, I want to continue to expand on global outreach. I think it's highly important.
Thank you. Yeah, it's wild to think about anything in 10 years from now. I feel like our the time frame that we look at things has changed so much during this time. Next question, how did you become interested in community and sustainable agriculture?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it was I went through this whole spiritual and physical transformation in 2011. I shared with you my educational background, and then coming out of college, some my college experiences at Essex County College, Montclair State University, and the City College of New York, and I became a ghostwriter, co-author, book publisher, and my goal at that time was to see my name in the credits of movies. I was like, I'm going to be a screenwriter. And then in 2011, my world came crashing down. I got so burnt out from really unhappy with the career I was in, book publishing, because it was so money driven, highly competitive, and I was taking on too much, and it burnt me out. I crashed out, and found myself with no income, and not having income means that you are cut off from the resources you need to live a sustainable lifestyle. And so with no income, that means no rent being paid. How do I feed myself? And then I ended up having to live with my cousin, sleeping on his couch, trying to figure out how do I reinvent myself from all this. And I'm collecting food stamps or EBT as a means to feed myself. And then someone told me about a group of people. I learned about this in October of 2011. It said, Tobias, a group of people, did you hear? A group of people just marched on Wall Street about 2 weeks ago, and they're not leaving. They said they're not leaving until they receive economic justice. And so economic justice at that time to me meant, and it's on Wall Street, I thought like they were going to be handing out some checks soon. And so I said, let me get over there. I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. And so I scraped up some change, caught the PATH train over into New York, and walked a few blocks down from World Trade Center and walked upon this space called Zuccotti Park. And I was completely blown away. A small group of organizers managed to transform this open space into the social system needed for a human society to exist. They had a drum circle, people's kitchen, a people's library, a medic station, a media station, and I was meeting people from all over the world. I had never witnessed anything like this before in my life. Up until that point, I thought rallies and protests was a thing of the past. I didn't think it served a purpose anymore. I was completely wrong about that. And so I started meeting in this space. I started meeting rural and urban farmers. I didn't know what an urban farmer was until then. The guy was like, yeah, I live in Brooklyn. I grow food on rooftops, backyards, front yards, factories, wherever we can. I started meeting renewable energy technicians, people who had the skill sets of transforming the sun into electricity, the wind, transforming pedal bikes into generators. And I got turned on by all of that. And so the more I got engaged with these conversations, I started participating in rallies and protests. As I was catching the PATH train to New York one day, a young lady who I attended Essex County College with said, Tobias, on November 15th, again, 2011, there's a group of people starting Occupy Newark. And I says, wow, I had a pedal bike at the time. So I says, I can ride my pedal bike downtown Newark instead of catching the train all the time to New York City. I rode my pedal bike down to Military Park, downtown Newark's business district, introduced myself on November 15th at the General Assembly meeting, and got involved in Occupy Newark and emerged as a league organizer. And everything else grew from there.
That just gave me chills. Thank you for sharing that, Tobias. That was awesome.
Thank you for asking.
Okay, next question. To what extent have you been successful engaging faith-based communities in Newark and other locations?
Well, I engage with whomever is open to collaboration. And so they are currently a few faith-based organizations. One is in Chatham. A couple are in Newark. Whomever, I mean, I do a lot of, I do part-time work with a nonprofit organization in Summit called Bridges Outreach. I've been working with Bridges Outreach since 2017, January 2017. And so I'm just, it's just part of my personality. It's like, it gets lonely when you do work by yourself. And so I prefer to do it with like-minded folks. So just part of my personality to work with them.
Thank you. Okay, one more in the chat. What is the most rewarding and challenging thing about your work?
The reward, one of the most rewarding things is doing what I'm doing now, sharing my experience with you all. And also, there was clothing that was donated from a family in New Jersey. I'm trying to think of the town, forgive me, but and Maplewood, and this is clothing that was passed on from the children, and and we went to distribute the clothing in this mountainous neighborhood in Constanza. They call it the Spanish translation for these neighborhoods are called campos, camps, and we went to deliver clothing items, and these children just come. Once they know you're there to give out things, they just come out. It's just like, whoa. And I remember this little boy, he looked to be no more than 5 years old. And he was barefoot. And someone handed his mother a pair of shoes for her son. And within 5 minutes, this little boy had these shoes on, and he was so happy. And that was like a moment like, wow, this is interesting. Pretty cool to be able to be at a service to someone. And this child he could have been in any given city in the world. It just so happened that I was here witnessing that moment. And so being able to be a part of moments like that, being able to share the work I do, folks like yourself, those are high moments for me. Also, being able to harvest food and take it home. Wow. And that's why I got into the work I did. I didn't get into it because I wanted to change somebody's life. I got into it in 2012. I learned about the city of Newark having an adopt a lot program in February of 2012. I did not know this. Someone shared this with me. A good friend of mine, Alexander Markelitis, who was a life science teacher in Newark, and I became good friends. And he informed me about the city of Newark's adopt a lot program. And I just thought it was just so cool that I could be able to grow my own food. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. And so being able to harvest food that I grow locally is a highlight experience. Some of the most challenging experience is I'm constantly, believe it or not, I'm constantly overlooked. It's taken me 10 years to get attention from some major foundations that are now starting to see our potential and provide funding. Lack of community engagement is also a challenge. Not being able to have the resources to hire people is a challenge for me. And so these are things that I'm constantly thinking of how to create solutions for myself and the organization.
Thank you. I feel that growing your own food thing so hard, man. The first time I grew lettuce from seeds, I don't think I've ever been more proud.
Right. It's really rewarding.
And anyone in the NA community, the middle school is now working on our garden, but if you want to nerd out over growing things, just come to the Student Activity Center, because Ms. Duzak and I are already planning what seeds we're getting and how we can reuse them and what have you. So we'll have a lot of opportunities coming up in the month of service to make some seed bowls. And later on, some people are going to be making some reusable pots that we're going to put some seedlings in. So you too can have that pleasure of growing food for yourself and others.
Yes. So this is a nice follow-up question as you talked about the challenges. So how do you as a leader stay motivated and resilient?
That's a really good question. Because, there's many times where I end the night like, okay, I'm not doing this work anymore. Let me go get me a real job. Because sometimes it gets so discouraging, because it's like, you have a vision in your mind, and you don't expect it to play out as well as it plays in your head. But when you have situations where you walk to your community garden with volunteers, and you learn on that same moment that the property was sold to a developer, and your heart just breaks. It's just like, whoa, no notice, no phone call, you couldn't call me. And so these are things it has happened to me, and it has happened to others in our network. So these become highly discouraging, where you start, questioning, why am I doing this? But another one of my personalities is, I did this work for a long time without receiving any funding. So it's definitely a passion of love. It's a labor of love, it's a passion of mine. And so that's how I feel at night. But then in the morning, it's like, okay, what we're going to do? Let's do something. And so each day and night, the mood changes, but there's always that mission, that goal, and that inner voice, that spirit saying, just keep going, keep going. Always remember, once you reach the top of a mountain, you're always at the bottom of the next mountain. So you have to keep going.
Thank you. It looks like we're out of questions, and we've had you talking for just about an hour now. So Ms. Fisher, do you want to move us on?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Again, you would hear the round of applause from everyone. I think I've certainly been getting text about, how much they're enjoying it, and all sorts of different ideas coming at us from various students through email and stuff about how we can collaborate in the future. So this is really exciting. It's so nice to see, even the past, 3 or 4 years since we first met, the development of your work, even though having worked in nonprofit and run some of these things in the past, I recognize how hard that is. So if you can't see the day-to-day because you're in it, I will just say, it's awesome to see how much it's grown, and we're so lucky to consider you a partner, and looking forward to kind of strengthening that partnership in the future, not only this spring, but well beyond. We don't just focus on a theme for a year and forget about it. We try to tie in everything because there's all intersection and connectedness. So thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time and energy. Do you have any last word you want to say to anyone before we let everyone go and move on? I know you've been talking for a while now.
Keep thinking, be global. That's all I got to say.
Awesome. Well, we are an IB school, so that's one of our plans. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Everyone else, it's 9:41 now. I think for time's sake, we're going to open the rooms up for the service projects a little bit early, just so people can kind of get on with their day. So we were supposed to open them up at 10:30. We're going to open up at 10:15. So give us a nice long break. So hopefully we don't lose you guys. So go grab some water, grabbing up a cup of coffee, whatever you need to do. But we'll open those rooms up at 10:15. That'll also allow some time for our one group of community members who are traveling today to their faith food pantry to get there. So we really appreciate you joining us. Please go to the website link. I think I have it here. Oh, putting in the chat as well. The website will have the links to all the individual Zoom rooms. These are I know there are some issues this morning for some of us on the webinar. These are individual teacher Zoom rooms. So there will be a waiting room and we'll let you in. You should have easier access, but of course, reach out via email to me, Ms. Duzak or Ms. Morgan. We will be headed to my Zoom room if you're going to be making t-shirts, and hopefully you have some of your old t-shirts here. This is actually one from one of our former trips to New Orleans that we've done with NA. Don't worry, I have multiples. You'll be going to Ms. Duzak's Zoom room if you're going to be making those reusable pots that I know the 7th grade and Ms. Tavares' 6th graders who are going to be growing some milkweed and some other classes are super excited to use. And then if you're going to be helping launch our 1774 sandwich making projects, which is a sustained effort that we'll be doing throughout the year with the Do Something Club, you'll be going to Miss Morgan's Zoom room. So that's all on the website, so you can get that link. And we hope that you'll be back in just a little bit. And thank you again so much for joining us. And thank you again, Mr. Fox, for coming. So see y'all soon. Thank you, everyone.